Pretty Little Liars, the TV show, sometimes deals with disturbing and problematic topics. We provided a list of content warnings in the episode description. Welcome to Dead Ends. I'm Emily.
I'm Brenton.
And we have 2 new season 4 episodes of Pretty Little Liars, and the beginning of one of my favorite chains of events has unfolded.
Well. Look who turns out to be a bad guy.
You have to go back and re-listen to every time. I'm like, you're going to really like where Ezra's plotline is going. You're going to like what happens later.
And I'm assuming this is also when you would tell me, it's just like,
I didn't burp into the microphone.
You know, I wouldn't have said anything. That when I'd make a theory and you'd be like, you know, some of your theories in the future might work. Was this one of them?
I don't remember. You know how many theories you have, and I try really hard. I almost don't listen at this point because I don't want to give anything away.
We've done like 43 episodes of Pretty Little Liars. There's probably 43 different theories. Yeah, it's a good turn. It's a great turn. It's very exciting. And you know, whether it's the writers finally been like, okay, here's a mea culpa. I have no idea how long they've been writing this, but like, we loved Dark Toby. Toby this season without the edge, boring.
He's just cranky
plain white
Toby.
toast. He's just cranky Toby. Really cranky even in this episode. And so then we get another person that we'd be like, ooh, we know more than the girls again.
I think we should just skip Ravenswood and keep going because it's so good, and I'm worried Ravenswood is going to be so bad.
Yeah, my worry is that it's going to be boring, and not like fun bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh yeah, no one watches this because there's not much going on. But
if you're a Ravenswood fan, I need you to send an email to us if you listen to the podcast on a podcast player, or put a comment on the YouTube and tell us that we should commit to it.
I mean, we are going to commit to it. We're doing this is part of the process.
Me.
Oh, I see. Fair enough. We need. It's not keeping rigid.
I can't. I could barely pay attention through reading my lines for the content warning. Do you really think I can pay attention if the show is not good?
Yeah, yes, that is fair. It's all, only 5 weeks. What's 5 weeks?
Why was my brain like it's a ninth of a baby? That's not quite how that works.
Maybe the left foot. Anyhow. Also, when I said last week that you can find it places and you can buy it, it has been scrubbed. So, they
heard we were coming.
They did. They tried to. A is taking away the files. So, best of luck. We'll be finding our way to watch it, but, best of luck out there. But we'll try and do recaps so you know what in the hell's going on. But I think making Fitz the bad guy is tremendous.
The tension this builds is so good.
Good. And we finally have, he's... And I was getting fed up with him. Even you'll all editorialize a little bit in my recap. The next one, I was just like, watching the episode 11 and just being like, this, God damn it, we're going back to this. And then, at the end of episode 12, I'm like, they should get back together. I want the drama. Yes, please.
I think that's what they were doing too, to kind of distract from the how creepy Ezra is. They're like, what if we committed to making him creepy?
Yeah, which would be good. Fair. Yeah, so that's I think it is a good decision to finally come around on he's a bad dude. So, and then that's that is the big exclamation point on an episode where in the last 10 minutes Mrs. Grunwald, shakes the season and goes like, all right, you've been a little slow this season. Here you go. Let me. Mrs. Grunwald grabs a defibrillator and drops some lore on us.
I don't know. I mean, we got a Mona. We started the season with a Mona download. Mona just gave us all the deets.
Yes, that's true.
And now here we are.
Yeah. And yet, I preferred the Mrs. Grunwald version where she's like,
oh, yeah.
Dearie, I have these gifts. And then also, never in a million years would have been, because we don't know the character anyway, but even when we met Mrs. Grunwald, it's like, oh yeah, she's the one that pulled Ali out of the grave. Well,
but she was they did kind of make allusions towards her, her being her knowing things and her having foresight, because the girls would be like, it's like she knew we were going to sneak out before we did it.
Oh,
And the secret room,
Right. I just didn't think about that. She would be the other hand.
I always forget that she was involved with the sorority. I never think about how Ali met her.
Right. She was the house mother.
How did Ali meet anyone?
Yeah. She just happened. I feel like Ali randomly meets people by she's involved in some subterfuge or escapade and happens upon a shop and just meets the person and then draws them into her escapade.
Uh-huh.
And then, so just wild. Oh no. I'm curious. It was interesting going back in time and reading reviews of reviews that were 10 years ago.
If I could
Eerie.
turn back time.
Eerie seeing 2013 and being like, yep, that's almost 10 years ago. And
the year after I watched this, I met you.
That's so weird. It's weird to think that it was running, because I know that you saw the finale and I watched at least part of it with you and understood none of it.
Hello, Spencer.
Except for that. Well, I didn't even understand that because how could I? I had no context. You had to be well, this means that. I
did break down that episode for you.
Yeah,
we'll see if you remember any of it.
I only remember that.
It's so uncanny. Yeah. It's so weird.
Yeah. And so it's just weird.
You don't remember any of the other characters that are in that one?
No.
That's
I don't remember
so good.
any of the other characters.
I love that you didn't pay attention to me. I'm kidding.
Well, how would I? It wasn't focused on them. You know what I mean? So it's just you would be this person's this person, and just be whew, right on my head.
I mean, there's a lot of characters that you already know that are in that. But...
but I meant at the time.
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah,
it's harder for you to retrofit.
Because I don't know who these exactly, and I didn't commit them to memory because I'm only committing the what?
Well, and I was so mad during that last season that I stopped watching week to week and waited until they piled up and then watched the last 4 in a row.
Looking forward to that.
Okay, but I had been strung along for years.
Yes. We're doing it a much more...
a good A reveal. And I had only gotten one. And it was season 2.
To that, watching it week to week, I know that we have more road ahead of us, and we've already talked about when the next day reveal comes. So I know that he's not big A, or he could be, but that there's the possibility that he isn't because we haven't received gotten to that final climactic moment yet. Or also seeing the term Uber A in the wild because I'm kind of in a bubble here. I'm not looking at stuff. That it's I know this isn't the end because we have so much more. And then yet they're yeah, we got confirmation. He's running the show. And I'm because I have the knowledge.
You mean the articles you read were we have confirmation?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. It's he's running the entire show. And I'm we don't have that yet. But I know that because we've got so much more time left.
A little if you've for the girlies and everyone else who's seen the show before, in this, and I assume it'll come up in your recap and I won't call it out when it does, there is a planted seed for who Uber A is, and I never caught it the first time. It's a smallish detail, it doesn't change anything.
I may not have even written it in my recap.
I'd be surprised if you didn't.
Oh, okay.
I won't say which episode and I won't say what it is.
Okay. Well, before we get to the big reveal, we have a hoedown. Episode 82, Season 4, Episode 11, Bring Down the Hoe. Emily tells Spencer and Arya about the crawl space and Cece. Right. How soon I forget about, like, where there's all these other little things that happened before then.
You blacked out the hoedown episode already?
Well, it's just like all my like thoughts and things like leading into this episode is like thinking about like episode 12, and it's just like, oh yes, like don't jump the gun. Spencer and Arya think Cece went after Jenna and was living in the crawl space. Hanna arrives and she was with her mom trying to find lawyers, but they aren't finding anyone good who actually cares about her case. Hanna urges Spencer to talk to Veronica about getting back on the case, and Spencer says she's trying to see how she can help out without hurting like Ashley's case at all. Officer Tanner arrives at school and comes to talk to Lieutenant Tanner. That's Lieutenant Tanner to you.
I was thinking,
yeah.
This is a very important detail.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kidding.
Sits down at the lunch table with the friends and said, hey, what's the goss? She asks Emily about her house and how she's holding up. They haven't found who drove the car in there, but the police did find a muddy shoe in the Fields home that matched the footprints at the scene of the crime of Wilden's death. They're looking into whose shoes they are. Hanna then gets up upset and tries to cover it by saying she needs to use the restroom and leaves. Hanna comes out of the bathroom as the friends arrive to tell her not to let Tanner rattle her, and like A must have planted the shoe. They say Mona must have thwarted A's plans, so now A is acting out. Spencer says we need to put Cece on the radar of the police. Let's go into the crawl space, find some proof. She says Hanna needs to take Jessica De Laurentiis shopping while they snoop. Hannah's like, I don't want to go shopping with Jessica De Laurentiis. Like, I'm not going to the hoedown party tonight, so I don't need to get a costume or anything for it. And then Spencer says she just needs to keep her occupied. Spencer then gets a text, but doesn't tell the friends what it is. They all go to class as Hanna cries by her locker. A bald boy notices her. She sees him and walks away. Emily is...
Bald boy.
Yeah, he was bald boy until...
A shaved head, but I love it.
Shaved head, bald boy.
Bald boy.
I'm going to not have to write shaved head over and over. Bald boy.
Boy with a buzz cut?
Bald boy is so much simpler to write.
But it's not accurate.
Okay, his name is Travis, and we'll go from there. Emily is, if you all require accuracy.
If you're going to tell, how are they going to trust you on Ravenswood if they can't watch it,
fair.
if you're not even telling it right now?
I may.
He's an unreliable narrator. I literally thought the final episode was just the screen was going to be black. And it's going to be like, it's you, you're A.
You all along.
You creep. Stop watching this goddamn show.
It's all is because you've been watching the show. You've been tormenting the characters.
Thought it was my fault.
Yeah, video games like to do that, and it's dumb.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know
There was definitely in the mid-aughts and like late 2000s, early 2000s. That was like a thing where it was just like, oh, your character is actually the bad guy, or ooh, the game is commenting on like your violence you're perpetuating, which was, you know, interesting at the time. But then also at the same time, it's like, but you made the game that made me do, like, I have to do this to progress.
Aren't I a product of your society?
Yeah, so it's kind of dumb. Emily is printing a recommendation letter from Zoe as Paige stops her to see if she's going to the hoedown dance tonight and she wants to go with. Emily says maybe, they have a lot of stuff going on. Emily then shows Paige the letter and Paige is like, Zoe is totally into you. Like, no one writes this. And Emily gets mad and leaves.
And that's how you know Paige has never had a single person in her corner before.
Right. They either love you or they hate you. Emily, there's two things I know. Jake stops Arya after school. He came to offer her a ride home. I only wrote this down because I'm like continually wondering, how old is Jake? But Arya
20.
turns...
I think I saw online he's 20.
Okay. But Arya turns him down as she's busy. Jake passes off a recommendation for a lawyer friend of the family for like Hanna, but Arya says Hannah's mom already found someone. He's like, okay. All right. And like just kind of looking disappointed that he keeps getting rebuffed. And then Arya asks if he wants to go to the dance. He says yes immediately, which catches Arya off guard because she's like, well, I'm used to like my men being not available in the legal sense. Emily stops by Fitz's room. Speaking of not available, Emily stops by Fitz's room showing him her recommendation letter. He seems annoyed and hasn't shaved. and is just like, I don't know why you're so upset about like having a glowing recommendation. People have real problems. And Emily's like, I'm going to leave now. And he apologizes for snapping at her. She asks if it's about Arya, and Fitz says, no, Maggie's moving with Malcolm. Don't tell Arya, I want to tell her first.
Which is literally like predator behavior. Don't tell your friends what I told you.
Interesting.
This man is venomous.
Mm-hmm. Caleb stops Hanna after school. Hanna tells him about going shopping with Miss De Laurentiis, to which Caleb is confused. Caleb says, okay, well, I'll pick you up when should I pick you up for the hoedown? And Hannah's like, I don't want to go. And he says, your mom texted me to pick you up at 8. So, and then says, giddy up, little doggy, and leaves.
To which I cackled for like a good 2 minutes.
Hanna notices an envelope in her locker. Inside is a note that says, maybe this can help your mom, with a ton of $100 bills. She then notices Travis down the hall look at her. Spencer is talking to Toby about Cece and A, and thinks that the money sent to Hanna is from Cece. Toby is trying to calm Spencer down about this. He's like, let's not rattle the cages. I've been getting answers from A. They climb into Toby's truck, and he turns it on and over the radio, a recording of his mom singing starts playing, and he immediately starts crying. Spencer yells at him to take it out. And as he ejects the CD, there's a note on it that says there's more where this came from, along with a sticker on it for an appointment between his mom and Dr. Palmer. Hanna is at the brew as Travis comes in. She goes to confront him, asking why he's following her. He doesn't have an answer, and she leaves. Toby wants to go back to Dr. Palmer. Spencer says this is an A move. They are being totally devious. Don't go see him. Toby says, I'm going to see him tonight. Spencer says, I can't go with you. I'm going into the crawl space. Toby calls Dr. Palmer, and Spencer tries to tell him to think things through so we can plan before there's another A move. You could be just falling right into the trap. We hear someone pick up on the other end of the phone, but Toby doesn't say anything. Arya and Emily are in the crawl space, wondering where Spencer is. Emily asks if Arya's talked to Fitz, and Arya's like, no, I just started seeing Jake. I don't want to talk to him. They find a button from a jacket on the ground. They didn't hear a noise, and Spencer comes in. As they're searching around, they hear another person enter the house. Emily texts Hanna to make sure Jessica is with her. Hanna texts back like, yeah, why? Arya looks through the drilled holes in the floor, but doesn't see anything. As she pulls back, a long knitting needle comes through the hole and pokes through different holes, like trying to like stab them. And then the person leaves.
Arya gets all the stunts always.
At least in these episodes. Emily just gets, drugged and placed places. Emily and Arya catch Hanna up on the happenings. Emily wants out of the house and says, I can't sleep here. I can't sleep there anymore. I'll just sleep at Spencer's. Spencer comes downstairs, like kind of like sounding off and being like, you're going to do what? And they're like, what were you doing? And it's like, I was talking to Toby, like about stuff. The friends jump on her being like, why are you keeping secrets? Why are you being so secretive? Like, don't you know you're also being secretive from us and all this stuff? Spencer says Toby's going through a lot. Arya's like, we're all going through a lot. Spencer says he's not working with A, but A is giving him gifts. Toby's mom might have been murdered. Toby is in his car on the phone, getting angry about not being able to talk to Dr. Palmer. He hangs up and then gets a text from A with a picture of a car. Arya is at the brew when she sees Fitz sitting in the corner. Comes over to talk. Arya's like, I can't really talk right now. And Fitz like, oh, is there a better time I can come annoy you? Then Jake walks in and he meets Fitz. And then Fitz excuses himself and Arya's worried. And Jake's like, don't sweat it. It's all good. I don't care. He hands her a gift box and inside are cowboy boots. She tries them on and they fit.
It's so cute.
It's very cute.
He gives her blue cowboy boots. They're the same color blue as Rory's dress in Gilmore Girls that Logan also buys for her without knowing her size, because Jake gives her these boots and is like, oh, I can guess shoe sizes.
Guess a little better than like where Logan's like, I can just guess your size.
Guess dress sizes. Yeah. I have an eye for it. And you're like, oh, creep.
Well, I guess Jake maybe in a different way.
I only date girls who are size 0 or 2, so you're probably a 0 or 2.
Jake's like, I know what size feet are. Emily is picky.
You got to know how big the weapons are that are coming at you when you're doing your fighting.
That's true.
What a weird line. Like, why didn't he just say like, oh, when you changed shoes in your kickboxing class, I saw the size.
Yeah. No, there's something about like
him just knowing.
Yeah, and it's
I would love
a little Cinderella, like, oh, it fits. Yeah.
And it is Cinderella blue.
Oh, there you go. Emily's packing her things up to go stay at Spencer's. She gets a text from Paige saying she hasn't heard from her, and it's like, I'm guessing the answer is no, question mark. Emily notices nail polish on Allison's old table and then has a flashback. Allison is painting Emily's nails, and she tells Emily to break up with Ben. It's not right. And Emily's like, well, sometimes it feels right. Allie says, you deserve better. You need to stop like taking care of everyone else, because you got to be careful like about what you're good at, or you spend the rest of your life doing it. Allison's like, well, I can break up with him for you if you want. And Emily's like, no, why would you do that? And then Allison's like, I did it for a friend. She was with a shitty boyfriend and I broke up with him and he pulled a gun on me. Emily's shocked. Allison says, don't worry, he doesn't go to our school anymore. Present. Emily tells Spencer that maybe that older guy was Wilden and Allison was doing the favor for Cece. What if when she came back to Rosewood, Wilden tried to hook up with her, and then instead he had to die? We see Alley newspapers on a bulletin board, along with printed photos. We see Cece wearing all black, getting mad on the phone, saying, "Where are you? I'm not going back to Rosewood. Call me." Camera pans, and we see a red coat on a chair. Caleb and Hanna arrive at the hoedown. Travis asks Hanna to dance, and she's like, "Are you out of your mind? Why would I?" He says, "I put that envelope in your locker. My family owns the car towing company that Wilden had called to get his car the night he died." He was out at the lake and saw Ashley. Travis was out at the lake, and saw Ashley talking to Wilden. She didn't see him, but Travis saw like Ashley drive off afterwards, and then after that heard gunshots. He then saw someone run off, and he thinks it was a girl. Caleb comes back with drinks, and Hannah's like, "Oh, I gotta go dance with him because it's like a funny like bet, and this is one of Arya's brother's friends. Goodbye." Hanna asks why he waited so long to tell her, and Travis says, "It's complicated. My dad and Wilden had bad blood, and who'd believe me that I saw someone running? I think it was a blonde, but it was dark." Travis then freaked out and left his truck at the lake. The next day, he was back at his house with the envelope on the dashboard. Must have been to shut him up. Arya and Jake arrive and see Caleb. Caleb asks about Hanna dancing with Travis, and Arya's like, "Oh yes, that is one of my brother's teammates. Totally agree with Hanna." Emily, Spencer, and Toby arrive. They see Paige, and Emily awkwardly waves at her. Travis says, "I couldn't hold on to the money, but your mom can use it. I can't sell out my family though to help you. I can only offer the money." Hanna is pissed about this and is like, "My mom needs your alibi." Travis says, "I've done everything I'm gonna do," and walks away. Arya and Jake have a really in-depth line dance. Like, they're really good at it. And then Fitz is stacking cups and stares at them weirdly.
And then I looked up a little info about Jake because I was like, this man can dance, and he's dancing better than Lucy Hale, who is from Tennessee. You'd think she might know how to line dance. I mean, maybe, I don't know. And also years and years of being in front of people, I assume, choreography and things.
Right.
But he is in multiple of the Step Up movies.
This man's a dancer.
Yeah, he's a dancer. He is a MMA fighter, I believe, and a dancer.
So, yeah, who better? This is exactly what you use him for. You get him for the martial arts.
I believe it was his first TV role, too.
And then you find the spot for him doing the line dancing. Perfect.
They're like, "Hey, what do you know how to do? What about line dancing? You know how to line dance?"
Hell yeah. Or I could learn. I know timing. Jake sees Fitz staring at him, and then Fitz sees him and hides. Hanna and Caleb discuss Travis's revelations, and Caleb says, "How do we know he doesn't work for A?" Hanna says, "I don't know, but I have to trust him." Toby steps away at the hoedown and looks at the text with the picture of the car. It has text along with it that says, "Palmer's old car, 1071 East Mountain Drive." Spencer walks up and asks him to dance. Jake goes to talk to Fitz. He tells Fitz to give them more space, and he's like, "I'm guessing being a chaperone wasn't mandatory tonight. I think you've got better things to do on Friday night. I know you're hurting, but you've got to let her go." I like this talk, straight to the point. I'm going to be nice.
He doesn't even threaten to send him to jail.
No, he's like, he's being nice right now. Step off. Toby is a bit off, and Spencer asks what's up. He says, he tells her about the address for Palmer's car, and Spencer's like, "Is this another gift from A? I want you to be careful before you get burned. Everybody thinks you're playing the fool." Toby's in like, "Huh? Who's we? Did you tell your friends?" And then Spencer says yes, and he's like, "That'll be the last time I ever trust you." Spencer says, "Keeping this a secret meant I had to choose between you or them." And Toby gets all angry and says, "You chose them," and leaves. Spencer says,
"And I'd do it again."
Mm-hmm. Spencer sees Caleb and says, "I need you to follow Toby now." He says, "Okay," and goes to follow. Emily watches Paige alone. We see someone staring at Emily from up above. Arya walks over and Emily asks if she's talked to Fitz. Arya says no, and Emily's like, he's losing Malcolm. And like catches her up on it. We see the person from up above like watching them. Emily looks up and sees someone in a red coat moving around upstairs. Travis fixes the gas pump at his station. Hanna arrives and says, you have to give the money to the police. You have to do something if you're being blackmailed. My mom is still hoping for that the truth will get her out, and you have to do something. Spencer looks around for Hanna as Emily runs up, saying she saw a red coat. They see someone run downstairs and go to follow. They run outside and see them run down the main road. Spencer tries to borrow a man's keys for the hay bale truck. Gets shot down. The man walks away, but they do see that the keys are inside the truck anyway, so they try and take it. Fitz puts on his jacket to leave, and Arya comes up saying, I'm sorry, I didn't know what was happening. Fitz says, I'm sorry, I had no right to invade your life with my problems. You should go get back to Jake, and then he leaves. Spencer can't get the truck to move because it's like stick shift. We then see a red coat jump into the bales of hay in the bed. Emily notices the bales are starting to move. Then Spencer texts Arya to bring Jake to the side door. They both get out and move to attack. Emily goes in full attack mode, grabs a hoe, and starts swinging wildly at the hay. They find the red coat, but no one inside. Toby tries to break into the Dr. Palmer's old car when Caleb appears and says, don't do it. Really just runs off screen, or on screen. Caleb tries to talk him down and says if this has anything to do with A, you really need a reality check. They see a police car around the corner with its lights on, and they both run. Lieutenant Tanner talks to Travis at the station. Talks to Travis at the gas station, and he says he's not sure if he could identify the person that ran away through the woods, but he is sure that he heard gunshots after Ashley drove off. Hanna waits outside the gas station. Spencer and Emily search the coat and find that the coat is indeed missing a button. Spencer goes to call Toby to make sure he's okay. Emily looks over at Paige and then goes over to talk to her. Emily stumbles over her words, and then Paige is like, are you drunk? Emily's like, I want to dance with you before the night is over. And they dance. Arya visits Fitz. Arya says
she doesn't stumble over her words. She says something in reference to what Ali had said to her in the flashback.
Oh.
It just doesn't make any sense to Paige. Because she's like, I don't want to be... whatever it was that Ali said. Like, you don't want to take the mushy squash. Like, you don't want to take just what's left.
And she's like, I don't want the mushy squash.
Uh-huh.
Got it. Arya visits Fitz. Arya says she came by herself after Jake dropped her off. Fitz says the Malcolm stuff is a mess. Rather not drag you into it. Arya says, I'm not leaving, so you might as well talk to me. Then Cece is outside the apartment door with her ear up to it, listening. A gloved hand knits a sweater for a wooden doll. They then grab another doll out of a box that is in a hoodie. We then see a lineup of 5 dolls now that look like the friends, including Mona. The gloved hand holds a knitting needle and then stabs down. The end.
Okay. Lieutenant Tanner, are you also breaking the law like Wilden and talking to children at school?
Very much so.
Are any of these girls 18 yet? I don't think so.
I don't
Do
think
we know?
so either. I mean,
maybe.
We don't know, maybe, but like I highly doubt it. I think she's doing the exact same thing of just like, well, I got some time. I'm going to go down to school, interview them without their parents present. I guess maybe at this point, but this is... And I will only retroactively know if they are like only 17 still, because I don't know how long the rest of the school year is.
Yep. Nope. This is technically, we haven't even gotten to like Christmas yet.
Yeah, it's the same school year as season 3, right?
Yeah.
Because season 3 is when Emily comes back from the summer, abroad. That's not right. When she was doing service work or whatever.
I think that was junior year. I don't remember. It's their senior year. It's been their senior year for a long time. Yeah, I don't know. Because we get another Halloween-y episode, but I guess it's not necessarily Halloween.
It's the costume parade.
But it's not Halloween. So yeah, I guess this could be like
the same year.
However many weeks after Garrett and the train.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Time doesn't make sense in
Pretty Little Liars.
No. Why would they make Hanna go shopping with Mrs. D? Why not send Emily?
Yeah, it was Emily is literally staying with her. Hanna is going through a lot. Her mom is still like she's trying to figure out getting a lawyer for Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should give Hanna a little bit of a break. And then like Emily's the one that's staying there. So like that's easy enough. Okay, we're going to go. And like Emily's just going to hang out at the house because she's tired.
Mm-hmm. Caleb's giddy up little doggy lines.
Yeah.
It gets me in the gigs good. Like,
It's very funny.
giggles. It's so bad.
He's just like, giddy up, little doggy.
Yeah. To try to be Western.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a look. How did A get a CD in Toby's car?
Listen, that's an older car.
He doesn't lock his doors, does he?
No. Nobody really locks the doors of their house. So like...
No. Yeah, it's in the next one, right? When Arya closes the door after Jake leaves.
Yeah, and you're
I'm
just like, lock the door.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. People are trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm. And but that car is old, you know. Toby probably just doesn't leave much in there, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. I'll just park it out front.
Who was in the De Laurentiis house poking the knitting needle through the floor?
I would assume that's Cece now, like as we're talking about, but just because you know that is the other person that we really get, being like in a hoodie running around, and I'm not so sure that Cece is really actually against them. You know, there's a possibility that it couldn't, and she was just like, there's someone underneath there. You know, these people that are running these dark games are also in you know, high strung scenarios. So if they happen to hear that someone's under there, they're like, oh no, this could be an enemy. Attack.
Yeah.
So, or if it, yeah, I would assume Cece or whoever. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Cece or Fitz. I think Fitz could also be in there.
I think we heard high heels. But
oh, okay.
That doesn't mean anything.
It could like heels on the floor. Yeah, I don't know. Could be,
but maybe not.
Yeah, gut with Cece, but could also be Fitz.
Flashback Allie. Make sure, you know, like stop taking care of everyone but yourself. That's like sage advice coming from Allie.
It really is. Like this is the one time Allie has been. I mean, it's tough love, but at least there's love. Otherwise, it's just like her bullying Emily vaguely about Emily being gay.
Yep.
So this time it's just like, yeah, take care of yourself, Emily. Like you don't need to try and take care of everybody else.
Yeah, and stop dating Ben.
And especially, you know, it does really get you there where Emily's like at that time being like, well, sometimes it feels right, and like that's good enough. So like, you know, I'm sure they're like, even if like people that are not queer have felt the same way about relationships, have been like, good God, why was I in them?
Hannah's on a side quest episode.
Absolutely.
Travis, is he telling the truth?
Yeah, I do think Travis is telling the truth here.
Truthful Travis.
Truthful Travis. Yeah. I mean, he just, it's kind of funny they just kind of bring this character out of nowhere, to be like, well, we needed another alibi, and now we have someone else rotating in the midst that we could potentially bring in. So I don't know where we're gonna go with Travis, but I would believe him in this instance. I feel like with most things, Pretty Little Liars, it's like they're true until like they retroactively decide them not to be. So like I would say the same thing with like Mrs. Grunwald. I would take that as fact at the moment, even though that like could totally turn out to be untrue.
Why does Travis's dad have bad blood with Wilden?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Who
didn't have bad blood?
That's what I was gonna say. Other than Wilden being a grade A asshole and creep, it would be interesting to find out what like. I wonder if it has to do... Okay, so he was probably called that night to get the car out of the lake, right? The initial car. And then... Well, okay, so that actually... I didn't realize that actually also explains how the car ended up in the middle of Rosewood downtown, because the truck was left there. That's why Travis left the truck. Is an important detail, because then that also means like, oh, so that's how it got there. I'm just piecing that together.
You didn't think A just had a tow truck?
Yeah, honestly though, like I wasn't really gonna blink about that one. But Yeah, I don't know. He must have just been giving someone, I bet it like giving someone a hard time. Or like holding this guy like something over his dad, like in relation to maybe another case or being a crooked cop. That's what I think.
Okay.
Wilden's just an asshole.
Uh-huh.
We miss him dearly.
How long do we have with Jake?
Oh man, Jake countdown timer is started.
Ever since he put the boot on her foot?
Ever since the Fitz telling Emily, don't tell Arya. Putting the boot on the foot, that that's fine. That's together. But as soon as things were in motion for Arya to find out why Fitz was upset, or at least the one thing we know he's upset about, that how many other people you get pregnant? As soon as that was in motion, the dominoes were falling of like, yeah, Arya's gonna go back and be like, I'm so sorry. I'm here to fix you. Arya is really the relationship is the stereotypical of like, I could fix him.
Uh-huh. There's a reason why I love Arya. Emily, I just have one question for her. Like, who gives a fuck about Ezra? Let your friend live her life. Don't you see she's happy for once?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it really is like, Arya, you're being so selfish.
Yeah.
That's your teacher. Need I remind you? And like, Arya's having a good time. We all like Jake here. He buys her gifts. They fit her foot. He politely tells her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend to step off. He doesn't get weird when the ex-boyfriend isn't talking to her. Like, Arya's like, I know he didn't want to come over here. And he's like, that's fine. And we're like, yes, like, way to go. Just go worry about your own shit. I'm sorry. You're going to tell Arya that she needs to go talk to Fitz when you can't figure out whether or not you want to, like, date Paige? Figure out that first.
Speaking of other bad moves, Toby's in his turd era.
Just being a turd. I think it might have been in between episodes last night. Like, I was just like, I love Toby, but like, good God, like, he's just dead weight this season. Like,
if he's not he's just kind of in the way.
Yeah. And or like back when he was like, I'm the weird loner. And it's like, oh, wasn't that interesting? And then like, with these big feelings. And then now he's like, I'm big feelings and they just have him repeat hiding things every season. And it's just, this season is especially like, there's nothing going on. Like the season before, at least he was like working with A. I'm like, ooh, that's exciting. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't really, we don't know how his plot with his mom is going to relate to anything. And it's just like moving really slowly and has not connected. So then we go through the same old thing with Spoby of being like, well, we're angry at each other. At least it was like quick and like resolved relatively quickly, but it just, yeah. And it kind of strands Spencer too, of just like not being in anything interesting by having to be like, Toby, you gotta let me talk to him. Don't keep secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like, he's just being a turd. And it's in the next episode I wrote down like Toby is being indignant. Being a little baby.
You touched on it briefly, but Emily's whack-a-mole at the hay. Like, she was gonna kill A.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, she is all of her weight just like throwing this hoe into the hay bales. I just love like, when we'd started the show and Emily was so meek and just like not like confrontational. Now just Emily at the drop of a hat is like violence.
Yeah, she gets a shift. Caleb and Toby go do boy things and run from the police. Love that.
It's very funny. And then it's like Spencer's just like, you gotta go after him. And he's like, what is this about? She's like, just go. And he's like, fine.
Love that for Caleb.
Yeah. And then Caleb is pretty much just being like, put down the gun. You don't want to do this. It is literally like doing like action movie things of like, you don't want to do that. You're gonna get in too far. It's like, I already am in too far.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, Arya, why? Why go comfort Ezra?
Yeah. I hate it. She's like, I'm tired of things going too perfectly. And there is the show sets us up because they're so passionate. She's put so much into this relationship, and it's like very big and important, and they're big feelings.
Sunk cost fallacy.
And, right. And like, oh, we were also perfect for each other. Like, we're both these like writers and artists, and he doesn't like black and white movies. And it's just,
which isn't even true. He does like black and white movies. He's
just sleepy. Yeah, he falls asleep. And that's the next episode. I'll save my outrage. But yeah.
If I got mad at you every time you fell asleep, we would have never dated.
Yeah.
You got mad at me though the one time I fell asleep.
Mm-hmm.
But I slept through you coming to pick me up, so it was a little different.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we were sitting next to each other and I didn't.
It was like we were first getting to know each other really, and I was just like, she's not answering any of my texts. And also,
and all my friends showed up at your party and I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was taking a 6-hour nap.
And I was also in the phase when I was younger that's just like, this is an attack on me. I was very, very in the insecure, paranoid about like people not answering texts and things like that. It's like they're trying to avoid me.
That's so
I'm
funny.
taking that sin in front. This would happen like with friends and stuff too.
And you didn't like ask any of my friends that were at your house where I was?
I don't know. I don't remember that night all that well anyway, or if at all. But I mean, just in general, like or like just even with like friends and stuff, it'd be like, this is an affront on me. And then I get a text like 4 hours later. Hey man, sorry, I was busy. Or like, I fell asleep. All good. My, how I've grown.
No, I woke up at 2 a.m. and came to the party that was still happening.
Hence why I have fuzzy memories.
You were DJing when I got there.
There you go. Probably having a good time. Yeah, but Arya, you could do better.
Arya, you could.
You are doing better. I should say.
Well,
episode 83, season 4, episode 12. Now you see me, now you don't. My favorite. They really should. Wasn't it Now You See Me 2 instead of Now You See Me, Now You Don't? Anyways.
Did you like the first one?
No, but it's just, I didn't see the first one. I haven't seen either movie, but I'm just saying, like, it's right there. Open on a news broadcast, as they have a new, they say there's a new eyewitness in the Wilden, like, criminal case. Ashley's being brought in for a lineup at the police station to see if Travis can confirm that she was the one he saw leaving and driving away. Spencer walks back in with the package. They open the box to find 4 magic 8 balls, each with their names on it. All the messages inside line up to say, if she goes free, you'll hear from me. Emily says, I say, bring it on, A, but Spencer's worried.
An important thing to note here is that Arya's one just has the A in it. Also, what if they had grabbed those in the wrong order?
Right. Because I think Emily says kisses. So it's like, kisses, you'll hear from me, A, she goes free.
Also, the kisses on Emily? Is that true?
I don't know. I think that's what it is. Travis is at the police lineup asking, and they are asking him to identify which woman was seen leaving the scene of the crime, and we see Ashley as part of the lineup. Travis says, I'm not sure I can do this. Fitz teaches English class, talking about Shakespeare and love at first sight.
How rare.
I know. Not chasing after...
Well, he is. He's talking about the Tempest.
The Tempest.
I added a P.
It's a little tempting.
The Tempest.
I've never read that one, so I don't know what literary things we're kind of being drawn to here, but...
It's Shakespeare.
Yeah. Fitz asks Arya to stay after class. He says, thanks for coming over last night, and Arya says, I was glad I could be there for you as a friend. She leaves. She gets a call from Jake, and she talks to him about meeting up tonight, and she's like, oh, let's go to the brew. There's like this poetry reading and stuff. And she's like, oh, okay, I can just do dinner and a movie instead. At the police station, Caleb is with Hanna and Ashley. Caleb talks to Ashley as Hanna goes and paces around. Ashley says, thanks for taking care of her. Caleb says that Ashley didn't deserve any of this. And like, I see how you've acted through this, and I see where Hanna gets her tenacity. Hanna gets impatient when they see Travis and the DA walk out of the room. DA then walks over and says, Ashley, we're dropping all charges. You're free to go. Caleb looks at Travis and they share an acknowledgement. Like, Paige tells Emily that she's worried about her, and Emily says, we can't give into terrorism. Paige says, spend the night at my house and just spend the night with me until you're safe. Spencer leaves a message for Toby, asking him to check in so she knows he's safe. Ashley comes downstairs, all ready for a date with Pastor Ted. All the friends build her up and then see her off. There's a ring at the doorbell after she leaves, so Hanna goes to answer it. We see someone watching them from outside Hannah's kitchen, and Hanna comes back in with a package. Arya says, what happens if we don't open it? Spencer's like, well, then we can't win. They open to find a baby coffin. They open it up and find a doll of Mona that they then get a text from A that says, Hanna wins, so Mona loses. Find her before the cops, or they'll think you killed her. They watch the news with Caleb. They see the police are looking for Cece, or at least someone with the character drawing that looks like her. Hanna calls Radley and Mona and finds out Mona's no longer a patient there, but don't know what happened. Spencer says she'll call Wren to see what happened, or go to Wren's house to see what happened. Emily is going to check at the high school for Mona. Arya says she'll cancel plans with Jake, but Hannah's like, no, you got to keep Jet Li close by. Hanna then wants to go look for Mona. Spencer arrives at Wren's house, but receives no answer. She looks inside, sees that the place is all packed up. She goes to leave and sees Jenna's Mustang is parked out front. We see Shauna look out from his window, but Spencer doesn't see her before she ducks back in. Emily and Paige go to look for Mona at French Club and talk to the French Club leader, Jackie. And she's being difficult until Paige tells her to cut the crap. Mona supposedly was going to come that night to French Club, since she had just been released from Radley that morning, and they're going to have a celebration. Toby looks through a box of items, and they're all things of his mother's. He looks at his phone and notices there's a missed call and text from Spencer. He leaves the brew and sees Shauna downstairs with a bunch of papers leaving, but she drops one paper. Toby then watches until she leaves at the door and then goes and picks up the paper. The shipping label for Wren moving items from Pennsylvania to London, care of Melissa Hastings. Toby then calls Spencer. He's like, we need to talk, and hangs up. Spencer and Toby, as I said at the time, he's like, wow, just like our parents. Spencer and
call me when you can. And then it's like, I saw a cool dog today.
Right. Spencer and Toby meet and discuss the shipping label. Spencer wonders why Wren and Melissa would keep this a secret and them moving in together. And Toby's like, well, he's your ex. Spencer gets mad at him for avoiding her calls, and it's like, you can't just disappear after last season. Toby gets indignant, and he's like, well, I used to leave town when the walls were closing in. I would just take off, but this time I stayed, and you're right, last night I tried to break into Dr. Palmer's car, and that was bad. That was too far. Spencer says, you deserve to find out what happened to your mom, and Toby says, I just don't want A's version of the truth. Jake and Arya are watching a black and white movie, but he's fallen asleep. She pauses the movie to wake him up. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you asleep? Jake says, sorry, I'm tired, but I could actually really use the rest. Can we watch this later? And he goes to leave. Caleb and Hanna watch over Mona's house, looking for Mona, but they don't see anyone coming out. Hanna sticks up for Mona and feels bad as she is in trouble. Caleb then says, it's not your fault if she is. Paige says, you're safe at my house, Emily. It's okay. And Emily's like, I'm not worried about A coming after us. And then we hear Paige's dad yell at Paige to open up the door. And Emily's like, it would have been the same if I was a guy. Emily wants to go find Mona as Paige tries to talk her down. Emily feels like her and her friends helped create Mona and A, so they would need to help find her. Arya goes to the brew after the poetry reading and sees Fitz there. He says, oh, there's this poem tonight where it reminds me of something you wrote. And Arya's like, oh, you remembered something I wrote. Then bond over writing.
It was a short story about a cat, and Ezra says that it had he always thought it had been about Ali.
Right. And then Arya's like, well, I didn't know it was about Ali until you had brought that up.
No, until after I wrote it.
Oh, and after I wrote it. Yeah. We then get a montage of everybody as Hannah's sitting with Caleb, staking out Mona's house, Paige and Emily at her house watching a movie, Toby and Spencer at the Hastings, and then Arya and Fitz talk at the brew as Arya kisses him accidentally. but then they like go back into like just talking. We see a red coat watch them. The friends meet up at the Hastings, wondering where Mona is and what's up with A. The doorbell rings and Spencer comes back in with another package. They open to a beautiful box, but find it's empty. And Spencer's like, this is a puzzle box. They use this for magic tricks. As she handles it, it springs open to a handsaw inside with a note from A that says, "Watch me make a girl disappear." Spencer says A is putting on a magic show, and I think we're part of her act. Caleb and Toby are now staking out Mona's house. Caleb wonders why her parents wouldn't even call the police if she was missing. Like, something's up here. And I haven't even seen anybody leave. I don't think anybody's home. Toby says, "Caleb, you can go home, get some rest. I'll keep an eye out on things." Spencer explains the history of sawing a woman in half trick. Emily and Arya Google for magic shops, and they see a flyer for the Great Charlemagne putting on a show in Ravenswood that afternoon. They gear up to go. Toby reads the paper and then sees Jenna's Mustang leave from Mona's residence, and he goes to follow. The color changes as Toby tails Jenna's car on the highway and tells Spencer that Shauna is driving, and then we see the friends are arriving in Ravenswood. Arya finds the magic show. The person performing notices all the friends come in. A strange man watches Hanna. We see that Grundy is in the crowd. The Great Charlemagne calls out Arya to participate, who doesn't want to, but eventually agrees. The Great Charlemagne shuts her in the stage in a box that's shaped like a book. And then Arya disappears for a sec before he brings her back. Arya then leaves the stage, but then notices something that Spencer and Hanna didn't notice, that Emily is now gone.
They should all hold hands when they're out.
Also, it's not like the crowd's that large. The friends then receive a text from A that says Lager de Main, which means sleight of hand.
I love your French, Henry.
I was gonna do the Hanna verbatim where she goes, Lager de Main? What does that mean?
Lager de Main.
Emily wakes up in a box to her phone ringing. She answers Arya's call and freaks out, and she's like, "I think I'm locked inside a coffin," and hears a saw getting closer. Spencer's like, "Where's the Ravenwood sawmill?" And they go to find it. They also see a redcoat running, and they go to chase after the redcoat. They enter the sawmill. They find Emily's coffin on a conveyor belt heading for a huge saw. Spencer then tries to use bolt cutters to open the box because it's like sealed with chains, but they can't get it open. The redcoat, we see a close-up on the redcoat shutting down the saw and running off. We then see two redcoats, one in an alley mask, run upstairs, and the other one run downstairs and outside. Spencer goes to chase the downstairs one as Arya goes to chase the one who went upstairs. Hanna gets Emily out of the box. Arya corners the alley mask redcoat and they get in a fight. She knocks the mask off and we see it's Cece. Cece tries to escape via rope, but the rope breaks. Arya grabs her hand by the coat jacket, and Cece tries to tell her to help her, but the coat jacket tears and Cece falls. The friends gather round downstairs and see that Cece had fallen, but they gather round away from her. So of course Cece's gonna get up and move. They go to comfort Arya, and we get a close up of Cece's hand moving, and the friends notice that she ran away. Spencer says, "I think I saw something. Follow me." I think I was following Allison. She waited for me to follow, and then they enter an apartment to find large, beautiful prints of Allison on the wall.
A beautiful timeline.
There's a movie poster on the wall where we see eye holes watching them, kind of like it's a Scooby-Doo movie. Scooby-Doo show, whatever. With someone watching them. There's timelines for each of the friends and their secrets. Hanna notices a diary with a lock on it. Future episodes. And puts it in her purse. They find a computer with multiple monitors and alarm systems. And then Shauna get out at the River Valley Bed and Breakfast and goes to see Mona, who's on the porch. Toby watches them from afar. Mona asks if she's okay with this, and Shauna says she doesn't have a choice. Hanna tries to get into A's computer and calls Caleb to try and get in. Caleb's like, "I'll be over as soon as I can. I'll get on a bus, because Toby took my car." Spencer looks through A's bank accounts and found that they formed a corporation. So it just says Cece is on the payroll. She didn't start it. They wonder if A paid her to be redcoat and to lead them away. Hanna finds a wardrobe with men's suit jackets in it, and they wonder if he's a man, if A is actually a man. They find a large photo book with a bunch of alley photos in it. Arya points out that Wren couldn't be A because he's also being watched, he's on one of the timelines. Arya looks around at the boards and then looks at Allison's timeline. They find a note from Allison in the photo book. It says she met a boy in Rosewood lied about her age to him, said she was 18, and the trip to the shore that Allison told her mom about was to bring the boy along. Arya thinks A has been following Allison as well and has her at the lodge the night of the fire and followed a trail of her to Ravenswood. Hanna is freaked out by a photo of an old World War II gas mask and uniform. They then see a poster for a gathering at Ravenswood at 11:30 that has a note on it that says Allison will be there. They step outside and run into Mrs. Grunwald, who tells them the party's for invited guests only. They say they have somewhere to be, and Mrs. Grunwald says it's dangerous to go chasing after her. I'm sorry I lied earlier, but I did it to protect her. She was calling me that summer to find out who was after her. She was right to be afraid. I have a gift of insight that I was using to help Allison see who was threatening her. The night she went missing, I drove to Ravenswood and I went to her backyard and she was reaching for her life. Mrs. Grunwald pulled her out of the ground and Allison was in shock. Mrs. Grunwald drove her to the hospital and ran in to get help, but when she returned, Allison was gone. Emily asked if she's still alive. Mrs. Grunwald said she was never really gone. Didn't you feel it? I haven't seen her since that night, though, and she won't appear until she finds who can trust. Hannah's like, she can trust us. She knows that. And Ms. Grunwald says, I'm not so sure. And she doesn't want to be found. You need to leave Ravenswood because you're being watched. He's hoping you'll lead him to Allison. They hear children laugh as Mrs. Grunwald walks away and says, he's here. Caleb waits for a bus and gets on one heading for Ravenswood. Arya says, we can't prove any of this was true, but the other friends all believe Mrs. Grunwald. And they all want to leave Ravenswood. Arya notices the costume shop and says, we're going to crash a party. A male figure watches them from the corner of the street, then enters the apartment, and we see it's Fitz. He gets angry and slams the wardrobe door. We see a drawing of a soldier. It's kind of like old propaganda art, like a soldier choking on like gas, and then there's another one that's like World War I era art. We then see someone wearing the full soldier uniform with gas mask on. The end.
Okay. Toby missing again, being a real bitch.
Yeah, like he's just like, well, yeah, I didn't leave this time, but you're right.
And I didn't tell you that I didn't leave.
I know exactly. He's just like being annoying.
Yes. Where do you think the girls store all the clues they get from A when their parents are around? Where are they?
Right,
parents?
like where do they put all the boxes?
Like they have them all at Spencer's house, but like.
What do they do with it? So hey, Spencer, why do you have a coffin? Why do you have a baby coffin? What is this? I was like moving around this box and a saw popped out.
Yeah. Are you doing magic again? And if so, why?
They're just going to like the Goodwill and like dropping all these things off. Except Spencer's like, ooh, I want that box. I keep that box.
Yeah.
It is a really cool box. I didn't see one of those before.
The magic, like that you turn it and then it does the pew.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they've got really deep closets.
Where do they stole? Or oh, sorry, I just asked that. I was like, why is Shauna in Wren's house?
Yeah. It makes me think that I had my Wren allegiance wrong, which would make sense then, because if I thought that which I guess would make sense, like partially for like Mona, because Mona seems against them too. So if Wren is like working with them all along, then maybe they're like, oh, things are blowing up with the A team and like they're coming after us. We need to get out of Dodge. Because we don't really know what the broker deal is. It seems like maybe Mona has something over him, which would make him want to get out of there. I'm assuming that's probably what it is that
and
Mona,
why Shauna was meeting with her.
Yeah, that Mona did something, and so then like Mona is then meeting with Shauna because Mona would have something over Jenna, and so then Shauna's just like, well, like, because I think that's the her they're talking about there in that scene. That I'm assuming it's Jenna. So then when Mona's like, oh, like, is she okay with this? And like Shauna's like, oh, whatever, we have to do this.
So then how is Melissa involved? Because Wren is shipping his stuff care of Melissa.
Mm-hmm. She's part of that crew. She could be one of the tippy top of that crew. She could. I could see Melissa. Melissa seems like she would be running that crew. And also, we have heard some rumors that Jenna and Shauna were like also kind of afraid of her, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I have that right. And then so like Melissa being like, "You stupid Brit, like just get this stuff out of here then," and like go on the run.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they're like offering him a lifeline, and it's like you get to get away, and like, yeah, like here's a cover. I'll send all your stuff to me and like run.
Mm-hmm. Why are we punishing Jake for being a sleepy boy?
I know. He's even like, so he's even being honest there of like, I could, like, I'm sorry, like, I am really tired, and like, I could actually really use the rest. I think he's being 100% serious there of like, I should probably just go home and sleep.
Why don't we just snuggle up and go nenes?
Right. Is Byron back?
I don't know.
Byron's probably would just be like, oh, good. He's age appropriate. But yeah. And then it's a really dumb.
I mean, it's not even age appropriate. It's that he's not a teacher.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, he doesn't have. Well, I mean, she doesn't take lessons anymore.
Cool
but
teacher.
yeah, exactly.
It's very different.
Hey, didn't you teach Mike? But yeah, I hate that it's just like, well, he doesn't like black and white movies, so like I need to go get back with my ex.
Well, but it's not even that. Like, remember he had said that as like a joke, and then he was like, "But what if we didn't like the same thing? It'd be fine."
Right, but Arya's like, nah.
Yeah.
He's saying that, but Arya is just like, oh, this is a sign.
Yeah. Do you think that the clown, the Great Charlemagne,
Oh yeah,
are they involved in all, or were they just a cover?
I do think after like the whole magic act and everything, I'm like, oh, he was just a cover. Like that was just a.
Why did they pick Arya then?
Just cause.
Oh.
I think, well, I think he picked it to throw suspicion on things for us at the show, and then it was just like, it was because obviously I think A is leading them there.
Mm-hmm.
So then I think the shit with like Emily is like, oh, it's a trap for them. Mm-hmm. It's just an area for them to be at, and it has nothing really to do with Charlemagne. You know, Spencer is saying, Toby, don't listen to A, don't break into the car, but she also isn't saying we don't need to go see the Great Charlemagne.
Uh-huh.
She's looking out better for Toby than she is for herself.
Well, but at least they go see Charlemagne. They think they're just going to a show. Toby was knowingly committing a crime. There's a very big difference.
Fair. That's fair. That's fair. I'm just saying, take all things from A with a grain of salt.
Who hit the stop button for Emily?
Yeah.
Cece or Allie?
I would say Allie. And I do think it is Allie. I am fully bought in on Allison's life.
Okay.
And that is partially because of just like being part of culture and internet and like seeing things a little bit. So, but we'll cross that bridge when we get more.
But even if you think
reveal.
she's alive, it doesn't have to necessarily be her every time they think it's her.
Mm-hmm. But I do.
They have the Allie masks.
Yeah.
That's Cece, sorry.
Totally. I do think that was Allison in this case. And I thought they were like on opposite ends, like. Maybe Cece had been like part of putting Emily on the train tracks for the train to run over.
The conveyor belt, you mean?
I know. But I was just like thinking of like the damsel that gets like tied to the train tracks. Mm-hmm. And that Allison is like working to stop that, or if it was someone completely different and they're actually working together. But I think it would make more sense if Cece was part of that as part of like, say, the Fitz roll-up plan.
Sounds like a cell phone plan.
Exactly.
Free nights and weekends.
Yeah. If you're calling someone under 18. And Allison was like stopping it.
Uh-huh. Okay. How did A take Emily?
none of her friends noticed.
Do you remember in the first couple episodes when it was like, oh, the wind blew over a piece of paper with a note on it, and now it's like Emily is in a box on a conveyor belt.
Right.
She was standing in a
sawed.
crowd and was taken.
And none of her friends knew. That's the funniest part where Arya comes back and it's just like, hey, there's only 2 of you.
One, two.
And Spencer's like, oh. Where'd she go? How strange. Yeah, just broad daylight. Nobody else noticing that this woman got like probably like
Chloroformed and dragged away.
yeah. It's poor Emily too. She just gets the worst of it.
What did you? So in Ezra's lair, I guess is what I'll refer to it as.
Ezra.
I don't know why that just felt so gross.
Bad.
It's totally fine. But
no, it really is.
Just like nails on chalkboard, it's totally fine.
Just every fiber of my being says no.
What was the book Hanna grabbed and put in her bag?
Oh, the diary?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I bet it. Is that another Allison diary? It's got to be another Allison diary. And it's like her secret diary. It's like the secret, another secret diary.
Uh-huh. She always kept diaries.
Uh-huh. So this one is another one. Maybe related to her fling with Fitz.
Allison's fling with Fitz?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He likes younger girls?
Is Grundy telling the truth about pulling Ali out of the ground?
Yes. I'm 100% in on that. I'm like, Grunwald is a hero now. Sorry, we're like, said some things and we need to take it back. And it's good to own your mistakes, and when you premature to judge someone,
good job.
Don't make me regret this, Grunwald. But I do think that is 100% what happened. And it just blows my mind that was just like nestled into this episode. I was like, what? Grunwald is the hand on the other side pulling her out under the loose dirt, under the would-be gazebo. So then what body did they find? What
body indeed?
Allison's twin. Because that's what I was like actually guessing was going to happen. But I don't know, it's still good.
Does Grundy know where Ali is?
No, I do not think she knows like specifically. I think maybe like she like checks in with Grunwald every now and then, but does not actually know where. I think she is telling the truth on that. Like maybe not. I don't think she's telling the truth that I haven't seen her since that night. But it's like maybe she hasn't seen her, but receives like a note or something that like some sort of proof of life.
Okay.
She receives some token that she would understand, like a flower or something, and it says, Allison's still alive.
Where did Ali go after Grundy drove her to the hospital and she left?
God, any one of her parents' houses that they wouldn't have noticed her at. Could have gone down to the shore, could have gone to that penthouse thing. Like, see, could have gone to her grandparents' house.
Mm-hmm.
So just all over the place, I guess, is my best guess there.
Does this mean that Ali was real in the scenes where the girls were you thought they were hallucinating?
No, I still think they're hallucinating.
Really?
Yeah.
When I saw this, I was like, then obviously...
Complete U-turn?
I kind of always thought Ali was alive because of those scenes because she moved things.
Yeah.
The physical movement of the doll, the pills, the thing. I was like, the fact that it's physical to me tells me that they're trying to say that it's real.
Right.
Or someone is pretending to be her.
Mm-hmm.
I was also open to it. Like if it's a twin twist or like someone in an alley mask, but because they're on drugs, or whatever.
Right.
Like,
I think because they're all in various states of maybe only Emily's would be the one where it is actually Allison because she's literally moved out of a dangerous situation.
What about moving the doll in Arya's room?
No, I don't think so. Because I think they would either because it's those other ones are like when they're like drugged up.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see them like them potentially moving it or things getting moved and them thinking that it moved, but it actually say didn't or like they happen to move it. So
why is Ezra spying on them?
I think there is. I think he is actually looking for Allison. And I think he's also like, they found my lair. Like, fuck. I think that's what that is.
But why does he have a lair?
Because he's fucking part of the A team.
Okay,
this is what they do. If you're gonna be part of the A team, you have to find a printer, a house, so you can put up. You need to have the access to the Shutterfly account of all the alley photos, so you can print them all out and put them up on the walls. Get a bulletin board.
Was also, Shutterfly and was that a thing then?
I'm trying to think.
It would have been. What was the one that you uploaded your pictures to?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking for. It wasn't Shutterfly.
What was it called? Something. I don't remember.
But yes, that.
Yeah.
You got to share that account. Also, this A layer, so nice, immaculate. These boards with all the timelines set up perfectly. Like this place is clean. Also, that is like the computer is like meant to look like super advanced because it's got like 5 monitors and it's got a big big television screen on the
photo bucket.
Photo bucket. There you go. It's the photo bucket account. And
I literally Googled picture uploading website 2007 because I was like, that's
what is this? So yeah, and you got to have a nice printer to get all those big prints.
But I guess this was already 2013, so
yeah. I don't know what you would share with 2013.
The
private Facebook account.
Does Ezra being a baddie make him more likable to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to watch him more. He's not more likable, but like I want to watch it. Like now I'm like, all right. Now we've got investment. Now because there's also we're finally coming around to the show being like, okay, there is like parts of him that like are pretty bad, like in a way that we can like actually like have something compelling come out of it rather than like just like dragging their feet and being like, yes, they're actually really made for each other for like 3 seasons. And it's so gross. So like now we actually have something to like sink our teeth into. And I know historically this must have driven people crazy. Because it's like you have an entire Ezria fan base. And then this is just like, oh no.
Well, people did the same thing they did with Toby when it was like, oh, he's doing it for Arya.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Or he, he's got a good reason.
And there's still the possibility of that for sure.
Uh-huh. Does this make him the like dark-haired older love interest from a romance novel though? Like, is that what Ezra becomes with this? Is he like the morally gray? And or evil, like touch her and you die kind of? Or do you think he's like doing this because he's just like a baddie?
Oh, I think he's doing this for selfish reasons. I don't think this is for Arya. I think maybe there are some threats being made her way, but I don't think that's why he started. Like I said.
So do you think...
I think this goes back further.
Okay. So how long do you think Ezra has been part of this?
A long time.
What does that mean?
I had floated
threatening Ali level, like all the way back when like Ali was being threatened before the girls were involved.
Yeah.
Okay, so very beginning.
So I remembered a theory that I had at one point of like, oh, he didn't meet Arya by chance, and I'm like, okay, now this is a possibility that this happened.
My only issue with them meeting, the continuity, is that Arya orders a hamburger and she is a vegetarian.
You know,
she didn't eat the hamburger.
Just wanted to look cool.
That was some people for a long time, their argument that there was like an Arya twin twist or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, well, she got a hamburger in this scene, so that wasn't her.
But then it's like, that doesn't make any sense for the rest of the show.
No. Why would she be so attached to this man?
Well, that was my last question. Do you want to go to Theory Corner?
Before... I meant to do this at the top, but we can do this now. What was your reaction to this episode?
So I got really bored of Ezra with the Maggie stuff. I was like, keep Jake.
Yeah.
They made me, it's because what they did with this is they kept Jake longer than I think they intended from like how it was originally like planned, I believe, from what I've read. And I liked Jake. I grew from like, because it's annoying when they keep breaking up and putting back together the couples, because like that's like, I watched the show because I liked the mystery and I liked the relationships.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind fighting and stuff like that. But I was, after a certain point, you've got a really repetitive Toby Spencer plotline. You've got a really repetitive Arya Ezra plotline. You've got a pretty healthy Hanna Caleb dynamic that they're about to throw in the fucking trash can because he's going to go to Ravenswood. And you know this is coming because you've seen the commercials.
Right.
I believe. I don't know if that's true. We might not have seen it until the next episode. But I don't remember. They probably were already advertising for it by now. And then I was like, I'm kind of over Ezra. I kind of do think like, also I'd been watching the show for now like probably like a year because I started with season 3. So I'm like, your frontal lobe starts developing a little and you start going, I don't know, this is a little creepy. And like I had liked him. Like I liked Ezra. I was always into the like soft, mushy boy who like has a hard time with feelings, but has a lot of feelings and wants to express their feelings and isn't afraid to talk about art and love and, you know, all of that. But then also like is still an idiot because like the year, the time, the era.
Yeah.
But then I was like, this is probably inappropriate. And like, it's getting to the point where it's like, the secret teacher relationship is never fun for me. Like I found that very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because you know the actors are older. And so I was like, okay, give Ezra something. So then when this happened, I was like, I don't want to tell you what I thought because it actually was fairly accurate.
Oh.
And I don't want to plant a seed.
Interesting.
And so
about, like future stuff about like what his involvement in things were.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't like spot on. Like I was nowhere near perfect. But I was pretty like, there's like something very suspicious about him. Because it's just so weird for him to be around for so long and to not give up. And like that they're like, oh, we don't give up. And I'm like, ew.
Right. And then like, oh.
So I felt validated in his character's existence because I was getting really tired of him.
Yeah. Completely.
And we were getting scenes of just him.
Yeah. And
like him with Maggie and him. And you're like, I don't give a fuck about Ezra. Like, I don't watch this show. Even Caleb. Like, there's a reason why I didn't watch Ravenswood. And it's partially because it wasn't my type of show. But also because, like, I watched it for the main girls and their dynamic. And then the men were accessories. Yeah. And like, you don't get a lot of that.
No.
Especially as a teenager, like early 20s, but like teenage girl, like that's what this show is technically. Yeah. You don't get a lot where it's just about you and your peers and that the men wouldn't pass like a reverse Bechdel test. Like,
yeah, totally. And an entire mystery show.
Exactly. And that it wasn't like cutesy. It was like gritty and dark and kind of scary and like all of those things. And so I always felt like when we focus too much on the men's or boys, I guess technically depending on the age, plot lines like in a silo, it kind of got like boring and frustrating, and they did a lot of that in this season. Yep. They did it with Toby and they did it with this, and it pays off in the end kind of, but like I don't think we needed as much of it.
Right. Yep. I think you can tell how much that stuff drags this season. As much as I was excited by the prospect of Toby and Caleb.
But and it's also like you're thinking like right now we're watching 2 episodes at a time. I was watching this week by fucking week. And I was like, okay, like what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And then like you'd get one like the first one we did of these 2 where it's like nothing happens. Or like Hanna does a side quest.
Yeah, you get like some stuff, but
you get enough to keep you going, but not enough to like fulfill you. And so it's kind of annoying.
Yeah. And I would say like the episode we did, like episode 11, is like building on like the kind of down weeks that we just had over the past couple weeks, but still there's not a lot going there. It's not like season 3 where you're like, buckle up.
And I think the second half of this season, from what I remember, is a little bit there's more tension to it because we already know that Ezra is up to something nefarious. We know Ali is alive, or we believe Ali is alive, or some version of Ali is walking around out there. We know Cece is involved somehow. Like we have some very solid facts.
Totally.
We know Wren is sending his stuff to Melissa, and somehow Shauna's involved, and Mona's got something over or with, or is working with them, but not, and like definitely has her own like autonomy in that. And so it's like, okay, Mona wasn't in danger, or was she?
Right. Doesn't seem like it.
Like the whole thing is just very. We also give up on like trying to find Mona.
Pretty quickly in this.
We're like, we'll put the boys on it.
Right. Exactly. And then, but we got to go to Ravenswood.
So I just think it's a little. I think it improves, but I really think this is kind of where the show starts to either shape up or fall apart.
Yeah, the reveals that we've gotten, especially around Allison potentially being alive, like that confirmation, and then Fitz being part of some sort of nefarious A-team potentially, or just like being like watching them, is it's like, ooh, you're like, those are the big final ones I feel like that you can really, really pull off with what you've got going here. So it'd be like hard to top.
Yeah. And I think the second half of this season is more explanation than you get new information through the explanations, but you get more of that backstory. And I think it's actually really nice.
Cool.
Because it's like you find out like, okay, what, not all of, but like, can we identify more things that happened the night Allison disappeared? Can we identify Ezra's when, his where, his why, his who?
Right.
And kind of all of that. So yeah, I like that part. But yeah, no, I liked the Ezra reveal because I was kind of like, eh. But I was always like, I was into Ezra until I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was big on it at the beginning because I was like, this is kind of like fun.
And then after a while,
because they were finally able to be together, and I was like, okay, this is almost appropriate.
Yeah.
In the like pretending she's 18 legality sense.
Right. Exactly.
But like, then you're like, oh no, we're backsliding. And we just kept backsliding
all the way into Maggie and Malcolm.
That weren't even. There was a absolutely waste of a plot line.
It really is. Because I'm assuming they're just gone now.
I don't think we ever hear from them again.
Cool. Good stuff.
Okay, would you like to take us to your theory corner now?
Well, yeah, actually, but we do have one detour. Back to everybody's favorite moment. A slideshow!
See, yours looks just like Ezra's. It's all neat and organized and on white.
That's right. We both have minimalist designs. So, let's go back to the timeline. Supposedly, Allison visited Jenna at her clinic and threatened her. We don't know if this is true. Remember Duncan? Always forget Duncan. Allison gets flown back outside of Philadelphia, courtesy of Duncan. Allison then arrives to Rosewood via taxi, and Spencer notices the luggage tags for Hilton Head. Right, with like Ian and stuff. How soon we all forget. Jenna is then picked up from the clinic by Garrett.
Remember him? He's dead.
He's gone.
So is Ian.
So is Ian. Allison gives Emily the snow globe that has the key to the storage locker. Spencer, Emily, and Hanna arrive at Spencer's house for the sleepover, and then Arya arrives. Next slide. Allison arrives at the barn and scares the friends. Allison and Spencer fight inside Spencer's house about Allison telling Melissa about Ian. Toby sees Allison get in a car with a boy. I put unconfirmed, but probably Ian, but we don't know that. Is it potentially Fitz? We'll find out. Arya wakes up to see Allison missing and finds Spencer arriving back to the barn, who tells her she's missing. Allison then meets with Ian, and they film the I Know You Want to Kiss Me video. Ian, Garrett, and Jenna search Allison's room and find the box. Ian sets the box that Jason ends up giving to Arya later. Ian sets up a camera, and Garrett and him get in a fight. They hear someone walking upstairs, and Melissa enters the room demanding to know where she is. Garrett and Jenna leave Ian and Melissa to talk and run into Allison in her backyard. An altercation ensues, and Garrett pretends to kill Allison. Garrett returns to Allison's backyard and sees Allison and Byron talking. Allison tries to extort Byron for more money, she already has before, about his affair, but he doesn't take it. He then goes to leave and sees Melissa outside the house talking on the phone. Jason stumbles out of his house and sees Cece and Melissa talking in his backyard. He looks away and then looks back, and they're both gone. Allison is supposedly visited by Wilden? ? Allie is buried alive at some point, but is saved by Mrs. Grunwald, our new hero.
I do have a question for you. If we go back.
Yeah.
Wouldn't Arya waking up and then finding her missing be way later down the line? Do we know like when they wake up?
No, we don't.
Okay. And
so it could be more that it's like after the
Grundy.
buried alive, yeah.
And do we know when Toby saw her get in the car was before she was killed by Garrett?
No, I think it's like leaving Spencer's house.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we don't know about that either.
Okay. I don't remember if that like matters at all, but I was just like, I'm not sure if those are set in stone.
No, it could. This is my bet. I'm glad you pointed this out because these are old parts that like I hadn't revisited. So these could be moved. We don't know.
We will be given at some point a full kind of like breakdown
of where this all lines up. I'm sure.
I mean, I don't know if they go into as much detail as you have, but
well, I'd be a little disappointed if they didn't. All right, but we can leave the timeline behind. We can head into Theory Corner. Brenton's Theory Corner. Big one this week. Now this Fitz. We've never liked him. And we get the mind a running and we start revisiting old theories. But I will start off by saying that and we kind of said this at the little bit of the beginning too. It's like I don't think he's Big A and is potentially doing this for reasons to either cover his own ass or someone is looking for Allison and is using him to fund the operation and like run a lot of these things, and holding over information that is him potentially in regards to Allison. So Allison, we know, met a boy, or let's go back with some of the other things. So Allison says that she helped a friend break up with a guy who pulled a gun on her. I do think that's pretty safe to say that it's probably Cece because she says he doesn't go to our school anymore. And Wilden, we know, went to the school. So I think she's just like, even if she didn't get him kicked out, like he's like gone, you know what I mean? So like, we don't need to worry about him anymore. And so I do think that maybe Cece and Wilden did date in the past. And Allison ran into an altercation with him, whether that was on the boat or something like that, and told him like, hey, you can't be with her anymore. So then like she got into a altercation with him. And I think there's like that past connection to where, and that's possibly that past connection too with like Melissa and Wilden and Wren, is going all the way back there where like Cece must have burned some sort of bridge with them. And so it's maybe more closer with Allison, and that was maybe partially like Allison keeping that distance, but like Melissa took his side. I wonder if even maybe like him and Melissa had something they could have.
Wilden and Melissa?
Mm-hmm. And so that is why they're like kind of all tangled together. But I think we've got pretty clear side now of Shauna, Jenna, Melissa, Wilden, Wren, all kind of working together. Or that Wren wasn't working with them and goes to them for like safety almost to like help out, like because he needs to like get out of there because Mona was holding something over him. And I don't think Mona was ever in danger, but I think A was using that Mona was leaving to trick the friends into like searching for her or being worried. I think Mona had she has something on top of the other people like Jenna and things, and it's like, yeah, like you want a broker, like I can help you out with this. Against the A team, which we now know Cece is on the payroll, so is being paid to do things. And I do think Cece is, in fact, the red coat that we've been kind of seeing along with some variation of Allison. And I do think that team is looking into Allison and is using the friends as a way to like find her and like smoke her out. So I usually thought before that it was like some sort of revenge for Allison and that she was in charge of that. I do think maybe Allison is on the run. I do believe that at the moment, and that controlling the friends would allow them to hopefully get Allison to come to their rescue, so then they can find her and bring her down.
Okay.
So, which brings us back to Fitz. I think his vast resources and wealth could help put together that nice apartment and all those things and buy them all the computers and things like that. Set up a corporation also so they could make money, I'm assuming. I don't quite know where the A Corp is going from here, but I find that a very funny wrinkle that they incorporated. It must be some way of them making money. But I think using his resources, they helped like set that up, and that was very instrumental there. And so I think going back, Allison had written and said that she had met a boy, didn't know her age, thought she was 18. And so they had a fling. She met this boy, Fitz. They had a fling. Oh, the baby wasn't Wilden's, it was Fitz's. And when they got in fights and altercations and like ensued and things like that, and so she disappeared on him. He maybe tried to go after her. He maybe thought that he could like might have killed her, and when she ran away, like he thought like felt guilty. But then the person who now runs the A team came to him and was like, okay, like I know all about this like secret relationship you had, and I'm holding over you, and I'm gonna force you to do things like set up this corp, set up like this big layer and things like that. And I also want you to get ingratiated in her friend group and put him in front of Arya. And so that's how like that relationship started. And so it started off as just like a manipulation to get close and understand things. But like then, oh, he grew to love her. And so then that became a thing that like the other person held over him. Mm-hmm. And so like he also probably didn't know that she was a student. And so it's like, oh, it's just like one of her friends, and like also lied to him about that. But then history has now repeated itself where it was with another underage woman. And so he was set up almost by A. Like,
so he found out later that Allison was underage, but then didn't think her friends would be underage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Allison was also friends with like Cece.
Uh-huh.
Who is like older at that point. You know what I mean? Because this is years after. Or a year after, a couple years probably. And Cece was already 18 at some point. So,
are you saying that the B-52's poem was all a sham? Ezra wrote a poem.
Oh, right. You know, maybe he actually had caught feelings by then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think maybe he did catch feelings for Arya, or do you think it's all been for a game?
No, I think he did. And so then now it turned to like the person running the A squad is like using that against him. And so that's partially like I was in too deep and I had to like do these things.
I will say after I watched this episode, I wanted Ezra to be A so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like to be the big A. I was like, yes, this will feel
Uber A.
This will feel very good.
Mm-hmm. And I just don't think, you know, now having historical context for how much longer the show goes and things, I don't think he is.
They also would never have revealed an A at a mid-season finale is kind of how I thought about it.
Got it. We just get the betrayal.
That wasn't that the Toby one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he is A, then there's so much more to, you know what I mean? Like you're like, okay, we don't actually get anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and reading like some other like reviews back at the time or recaps where like people thinking like I could also buy into that Cece and Allison are working together, and so but didn't want to be caught at the same time. So even though Cece is on the payroll, and I think it's interesting that she's watching Fitz and Arya do these things, and like keeping track of them, even though they would technically be part of like the same team. So I don't know if that's a directive from Big A to keep an eye on Fitz and then collect these things back. Mm-hmm. So then there's more fodder for them to like hold over Fitz, or if it's she's helping Allison and like keeping an eye on them to like stay one step ahead.
Or she could be collecting the information even for Ezra to then use against Arya.
That is true. So, yeah. Big stuff happening.
Well, I'm excited because we will soon get one of my favorite scenes, which is when Arya finds out about Fitz.
I love it.
Oh, I have never, there's never been a scene that like really spoke to my heart more.
It's good.
In the most like feral way possible. And it's like, of course, the most ridiculous scenario because like it's Pretty Little Liars. So it's not like, oh, she found out and she like walked away.
Way I oughta.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
She was in a ditch. No, I'm kidding.
God. Hand reaches out.
Well, any final thoughts?
No. That is it for Theory Corner then. Thank you all for coming. Goodbye.
Great job.
Yeah. No. That was a fun time.
Mm-hmm. It is a fun time.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
So definitely reinvigorated on it. I was very excited to record today.
Yes.
So,
well,
with that, you can find this podcast on all your podcast platforms of choice. You can also find us on YouTube at dead_ends. And you can also find podcast schedule and stuff by following us. On Twitter at deadendspcast. Email us questions, thoughts, concerns to deadendspcast@gmail.com. That is in all the description boxes of all the podcast episodes. And then podcast schedule wise, we'll be taking next week off. Enjoy a week to stew in the Ezra reveal. And then we'll be back with the Halloween episode. And then we will move into Ravenswood. Which I'm excited about. But with that, we're still here. We're gonna find out everything you've got on you, Fitz.
Uh-huh.